If you don't get that Bitcoin's going to six figures and seven figures, you're not too late, but you better catch up. Right now is the best opportunity. Check out the clip.
Buying one Bitcoin right now is like buying a bit of land in Manhattan, like years ago, like before it blew up. Think of it like this: you've got 21 million Bitcoin, 3 million is lost, so there's only 18 something around 18 million Bitcoin left. There's no inflation.
Right.
Well, it's basically an asset will just keep going up in price to a point where not everyone can have a Bitcoin. And I feel like people are using Bitcoin as the new digital gold. If you buy at least one, like, and just don't do anything with it, just hold it for like 10, 15 years, that Bitcoin is going to be worth a shit ton. It could be worth over $1 million at that point.
With that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you. Another cryptocurrency video. We got a jam-packed video for you today. We're going to be talking about the ETF and when it passes and what's going to happen after it passes. We'll get an expert's opinion on this, so make sure you watch this to the end. Before we get to any of that, what happened when the gold ETF passed? This went all the way back to March 28th of 2003, over 20 years ago. But can we look at history and see exactly what gold did once this occurred? There's a lot of money that came into the gold space. Look what happened. Since gold's ETF passed, which is way down here, that's what this little check mark is. You see that at the current time of this recording, gold's coming in around $1,920. But after the ETF passed, that big wall of money came into gold. And you've seen that it was just playing around. It did have some parabolic rallies, and then the 20 crossed over the 200. It bottomed out. But look what happened when it blasted off after that halving. How long did this take? Let's just zoom into this price action from before the halving until we first peaked out. So right here, this line, remember, is when the ETF first was passed for gold. So we just see the 20 crossed over the 200. We bounced off it, and then ultimately topped out way back in August of 2011. So this was 8 years later. What's the biggest difference between Bitcoin and gold? Bitcoin is portable and is the fastest horse in the race. So will it take Bitcoin the same amount of time to have this much appreciation after the ETF is passed? Most likely not. And how much time are we talking about? This is when the ETF passed, once again, March of 2003. And then we're looking at roughly 3,073 days, or a little over 8 years. So will Bitcoin move faster than this? And how high did gold go once this ETF was passed? We did this for you. Look, gold went and did a almost 500% return. So are we going to see Bitcoin do something like this over the next decade? By 2030, how high can Bitcoin go? Well, looking at the Bitcoin price chart, we mapped out some things for you, and we're going to show you. At the current time it's recording, Bitcoin's coming around 26.6K. Now, at the time of the ETF is when you want to be going by. That's the big catch-22 here. Nobody can tell you when the ETF is going to be passed, and then nobody can tell you what the price of Bitcoin is going to be once it passed. We do know that we do have the halving next year, early next year, in the first third of next year. So keep that in mind. But how high is Bitcoin going to go? Let's just say the ETF passed today. And at the current time of this recording, we're at 26.6K. And if we're looking at a price range, we're going to take a look from where we are right now, and we're going to go up 500% to see how high this would take us on the Bitcoin price charts. So keep this in mind. This would take us up to roughly around $160,000 as far as if Bitcoin had that same parabolic run up to the upside. This could be what could be in the cards for Bitcoin. Now, zooming out, if Bitcoin did go up this high, is this probable? Can we look at the Fibonacci sequence and see if the lines all match? Well, remember, we've told you that this could be a leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, leg 4, and then leg 5. How high can leg 5 go without it breaking the Fibonacci rules? Because the fifth leg has to be as long as the first leg, but not as long as the third leg. So If we measure from the bottom of this drop, this is around the pandemic dump around 3,800 to this peak right here around 65,000, and we pull this line down to the bottom here, and we match this up to like the 15.6K bottom, how high does this line go? This line goes all the way up to roughly where this was coincidentally pulled up to, roughly about $260,000. So look at, we had that 500% return within this range. So could we see $160,000 Bitcoin? Could it shoot up to 200 potentially and have that wick up? This could be what's in the cards based off of what happened with gold over history once the Bitcoin ETF is passed. Now, can Bitcoin be twice as fast as gold, doing it within a 4 years window? Possibly. This is definitely in the cards. We're going to get the expert opinion from Mark Yusko and see what he has to say. Everybody knows that Mark Yusko says that Bitcoin is the best form of money, and Bitcoin will power the internet of value by being its base layer. So in knowing that, what else does the Morgan Creek Capital CEO say is going to come once the Bitcoin spot ETF is passed? Let's hear from Mark.
I'll go further and say 1% seems more likely. That'd be 300 billion. 300 billion on 100 billion of free float, price goes up a lot. And here's the interesting thing, Paul, is the way halvings work is the fair value increases. So we've got a tailwind that the fair value today, based on Metcalfe's law model, that says that the fair value is somewhere in the low 50s, 52, 53, let's just call it 50. So at the halving, fair value doubles. Well, what do you mean, Mark? What are you talking about? Well, think about it. The miners who secure the network, their costs are fixed, mining machines and electricity. So if their block rewards, the number of rewards that they're paid to secure the network, gets cut in half and the price doesn't move, then they're out of business. So there's a built-in mechanism to move the price higher, which is actually really interesting because that attracts attention because there's movement. And so long story short, fair value, every halving has added a zero. So we went from 100 to 1,000. Then we went from 1,000 to 10,000. Now we go from 10,000 to 100,000. So if fair value is 100,000 and we're trading at 26, it's a pretty rapid increase to fair value, I think, as investors buy things that are below fair value. But then what happens in the fall, post-halving, you get this parabolic blow off top. And in the previous cycle, fair value was around 30K. We got all the way to 69.
Right.
That was because there was too much leverage and too much gambling and speculating. I don't think we go 2x this time or 2.5x this time. Could we get 1.5x? Sure. That gives about 150K, something like that.
Yeah.